have a very special guest. This is one of my favorite things about Radio Row is if a big star like the one and only Kirk Cousins is walking by and he has some time, he will jump right up on set. So we are so excited to have you, Kirk.
Yeah.
And I have to say, you are one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in these documentaries behind the scenes. You are the most humble, down-to-earth, rad dad. Like, how do you keep
I need to have that on a loop when I wake up in the morning. That could be my alarm clock. Maybe.
Make sure your kids hear that.
Yeah.
People said, you know, Kirk, you were good in the documentary. Your wife was great.
Yeah.
So my wife Julie really was the star, but I was glad we were able to put her on display.
Yeah, the whole family, honestly, getting to see the inner workings. We were just on, actually, Zuri Hall does a show, not about sports, where it's more of the human interest and what it takes to kind of, you know, you're competing at the highest level in the land, right?
Yes.
And what toll, though, that takes on
Sure.
the family and how families really support you guys when you're on the field, but then more importantly off of it.
Yeah, when I watch as a fan of other sports, or even when I was growing up watching pro football, you don't have an appreciation for all that goes into it.
Yeah.
You just kind of see Sunday and then you see Sunday, or you hear someone gets traded and you just see them in the next jersey and you think all it required was a jersey change.
Right.
And you don't think about the house selling and the family moving and the schools changing and the friends you leave and the new friends you make. And so there is a lot logistically with being a pro athlete that is difficult and unique to being a pro athlete, and the wives and the kids have to bear a lot of that more than just the athlete themselves.
So I have a question. I'm a new mom. I have a
great.
6-month-old daughter. And what I loved is you talked about one day a week that you really carve out and focus on
That's
your
right.
family. And I've taken that, like my husband and I have taken that really into consideration. What is some other advice that you've kind of given the young guys in the locker room who have new families and are trying to balance that like work-life balance?
Yeah, I think what's interesting as a guy is you can't help quite as much when they're newborns.
Yeah.
And so it like I found myself wanting to get to the stage where they are now. They're 6 and 8, and I go out in the yard and we play touch football, and I was really looking forward to that when they were 2 and 3. But you have to enjoy each stage for what it is, because you can't go back. And so I see the photos now of my 2-year-old son and my 3-year-old son, and that was 4 or 5 years ago, and I think, oh, I just want to go hold them and have them at that age, and I can't. And so you have to appreciate each stage for what it is, even if you're looking forward to the next one. Don't wish it to be coming that quickly. So there are days where it's going to be tough, where you're like, I'm so tired of having to do this again and again and again. But do the best you can to enjoy it, because once it's gone, it's gone.
If you'll indulge me a little bit in some football kind of philosophical questions here when it comes to quarterbacks. You're talking about the young guys in the league and the expectations that it's placed on a lot of these guys, and especially the ones that are drafted high. They go into maybe not the best situations, and I think we're seeing more and more how much situation matters. What kind of expectations do you think are fair for some of these guys coming into the league? You know, they're the best in college, but then they go to these situations. How much does that situation matter more than even what their level of talent is?
Yeah, the environment you're in is just such a team game, and so the environment you're in is critical. I think the 2 quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl are great proof of that, because both of them, even Drake in a small sample size last year, you know, they were not a winning team.
Right.
They were not in the playoffs. He didn't necessarily have a Pro Bowl year, and now he's been in the MVP conversation and starting a Super Bowl. And you realize, well, he didn't suddenly change or reinvent himself. It was everything around him got more stable and got to a place where it was clearly defined, and guys were able to play with no gray area and very clear. And then Sam, much even more with the larger sample size. You know, he's had incredible success in Minnesota and Seattle, and yet prior to that was kind of going from one tough situation to another. So the environment's a big deal. Now the flip side can be true, where a guy gets drafted really high and he gets a really long leash, and he isn't that good. And it's time to move on, but nobody wants to, because they say, no, if we could just give him more pieces around him, we'll be good. And at some point, I think you have to say, no, I don't think it's the pieces around him. I think it's he's not doing his part. So that's for the people on the inside of the building to discern each time. But it's both. You've got to get the right guy pulling the trigger at quarterback, but then you've got to give him the right pieces. And when you get both, you can be in the Super Bowl. But if you're missing one or the other, it's going to be a tough deal.
The transition too, I mean, from college, I know it looks on the outside, the college game and the NFL game are very similar, but the actual mechanics of it, you gave a really great answer at the podium like later in the season, where you talked about just how you see the field and how you were taught to see the field in college. that essentially, you know, now you're a pure progression kind of guy, and that's what they teach you in the NFL because defenses are so sophisticated.
Correct.
How long does that transition take, and how hard is it going from the college game to the pro game?
Yeah, I think it comes down to how much does the coach want to change what you've done. I mean, I've been a part of systems where I was in the shotgun and they wanted my right foot forward, and you'd be surprised just asking you to switch your feet so now your left foot is forward instead, how much rewiring of my brain that took, where I'm spending time in April and May just trying to take simple steps to get to where it's natural to have your left foot forward. So if the coach is saying, hey, we're going to try to do everything we can to make it a natural transition from what you did in college to what we're doing here, it's a lot easier to then add a few wrinkles here and there. But when you're saying everything you do is now going to be different, every word you say, every snap count you say, every footwork piece you use, every read, you feel like, well, who did you draft? Because the guy that you drafted didn't do any of this. So now you're basically getting a guy who you didn't draft. So that's the hard part is if you want the guy you drafted, you're going to have to do some things that he's done. Otherwise, you're not getting the guy you picked.
So let's talk about what you're here with, which is Zebra Technologies, next-gen stats.
Yes.
How much does that come into play for you on a daily basis, a week-to-week basis when you're preparing for the game?
Well, Zebra Technologies put a chip in the ball, so they can measure the spin rate, velocity, and it's really interesting feedback. So you can, if you get your arm hit in a game, you can see from the data in practice, do I still have the same zip on the ball that I want? Can I spin it the same way? You know, you compare yourself to other people. How's my spin rate relative to theirs? So that's some helpful information as a thrower, and then they put it in the shoulder pad so you can know your general movement, and like receivers and DBs can know, you know, their acceleration, their distance traveled. It's a big one now with hamstrings and trying to protect guys so that they can stay healthy is how much high-speed yards have they had this week, and is it too much, is it too little, so that we can manage their legs so they can be ready for Sunday and be at their best. So it's a very practical tool. They're actually, Zebra's working with 80% of Fortune 500 companies to handle their tracking and logistics. So it really is a technology they developed for corporate America, and then we realized, well, that same technology package can work on an athlete, and so we use it as well. It's been a great partnership with the NFL for well over a decade now, but really cool information, and the more sports science comes into the play, the more Zebra Technologies becomes a big driver of that data behind the scenes.
Amazing.
We love it. Kirk, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Pleasure.
We're big fans of you on the field, but even more off the field.
Appreciate
Keep doing what you're doing.
Great to
really
see y'all.
appreciate you.
Good to catch up.
Yeah.
Go green.
All right, go Lions. There we go. Thanks.